Hello, everyone, and welcome to Last Week in Denmark podcast. This is season 3, episode 3. My name is Golda, and I am here with Narcis.
Hello, everyone. And by the way, be kind to Golda. It's actually her first episode. She's debuting with us here today. So Golda, tell us a few words about yourself before we jump into the serious trouble.
Yeah, so for me, I came to Denmark at the age of 3. So I've lived in Denmark for many decades now. I'm not going to reveal my age. I am currently a Danish expat in the UK, but have close ties to Denmark as I am traveling front and back all the time anyway.
This is very interesting, to be honest. Like you literally grew up as a Dane, so you have the Danish perspective, but now you live abroad. So and you still have your roots, right? Your international roots with yourself. So that's will be very interesting to see how you see things, how you understand things, right? Because we know what we see on TV, but for example, whenever we're gonna probably touch a subject, you're probably gonna be able to see what happened in the last 20 years. What have you lived through or seen on TV or in media, right? So that makes it very exciting. So I'm very happy that you have joined us on this podcast, Golda, and looking forward to hear your future today's episode, of course, and future episodes as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So, the last week in Denmark, the top 3 news topics are Denmark wants to limit the wolves population.
My God.
Right, very interesting one. Unlimited free days for parents to care for 6 children.
Socialism.
And the police in Denmark are facing an investigation after revelations that they're actually skipping investigative steps to close case faster.
All in the name of efficiency.
Right, we are an inefficient bunch. So, Denmark seeks to manage growing wolf population. This is so interesting because Denmark has witnessed a notable resurgence of wolves after 200 years. Isn't that weird? What do you think about that?
200 years without wolves, and now they're back, and they want to reclaim their territory. Where have I seen that before? People go away, they want to come back, they want to take over what was theirs in first place. Let's not go into geopolitics now or Israel-Palestine, but let's keep it to wolves, right? Let's keep it to wolves. I mean, it's a bit strange to me that this has become such a big topic. It's like literally everyone seems to be talking about it. There's 3 topics in Denmark right now. There's Greenland, obviously, because there's hard to ignore that. There is wolves, and there is what have you eaten today, and how's the weather outside. Literally, if you listen to any conversation between co-workers or people at the tables, it's Greenland and wolves. But how many wolves have arrived to Denmark?
So they're actually saying that it's an estimated of around like 78 different types, but I don't know the like total number, but it seems like the farmers are really concerned over their livestock.
Well, the question is here now, who should pay the price, or who should feed these wolves right now, right? Because I mean, 60, 80 wolves doesn't sound like a hell of a lot of wolves, right? It's just some wolves. It's a few wolves. But of course, if you go out for a run in the forest, you would not be very happy to meet the wolves. To meet the wolf. How would you feel if you actually meet a wolf?
Let's just say that's not on my bucket list of things I want to do in this lifetime. But I can definitely understand why some people were a bit worried. Do you even know what happened 200 years ago, why they disappeared? Have you thought about that?
What I think is that these people simply killed them all, right? The usual extinction story, or genocide story, if you want to say it.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what happened.
Like there was a lunar eclipse, and I don't know, some big planetary device came and made them all disappear in one night. No, it's farmers. It's always the farmers, right?
Did you know that in 2024 there was a man that was actually convicted for illegally shooting a wolf?
Well, wolf is a protected species, right, on a EU law. So
Yes, yes, they are. So I'm really interested to see how the Danish government is going to carefully manage this. Because with shooting them being illegal, which was the one way they got rid of them in the past, I wonder what they're going to do now. Line them up in one straight line and tell them goodbye? I don't know.
that would be highly illegal. But right now they're lobbying like crazy, the European Union, and as far as I know, they might be able to push the union to loosen up the basically the protection level of the wolf, so that in certain cases they'll be allowed to limit the population in certain areas. But I mean, it's a bit strange because right now we're all talking about rewilding Denmark, rewilding Europe. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about transforming a quarter of Denmark into a forest, for God's sake. Most of it will be untouched forest. Who should live in the forests if we are afraid now that wolves are taking too much space and too much livestock? Are they going to be just, for the sake of trees, or are we going to allow any sort of other life to be in those forests? So now the question simply is, how do we divide the space, or how do we divide Denmark and the nature between us? How much should be for humans and how much should be for wolves?
Well, they're going to have to figure that out. They're currently suggesting some subsidies for some electrified mesh fencing and guard dogs. So I think along the side, having to consult a lot of farmers, they will make an allocated area for the wolves to be. And let's just see what the Danish people say in terms of how much land they want to give to our friendly wolves.
So basically, we're talking about reservation status.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be like a political party starting in the future called Movement for Freedom of Wolves. Do not keep them in reservations. They have rights.
I wouldn't see it past me. Well,
Okay.
well,
Would you vote for a wolf-free? No, not actually. I have a feeling that parties will just go to a wolf-free Denmark and please allow wolves everywhere types of parties. So there will be these people who will be like, wolf is my friend. And if you do not see wolf as your friend, you are not a true Dane, We are Vikings. We lived all our life with the wolves next to us. It's important for our national identity to allow wolves to survive and eat our livestock.
you're gonna have to take that one up with the farmers.
Ah, I mean, farmers, they should know that they're like let's just say threatened species in Denmark. The number of farmers will drop severely in the next years anyway.
I can believe it. Well, that takes us into our second topic, which is increase parental leave
Mm,
for sick children. We're both parents,
yeah.
so what is your perspective on this?
Well, I see that there are attempts, to be honest. I saw attempts from some companies. Now there's attempts from some institutions. It seems to be a narrative. And to be honest, funny enough, I sit in a political party. And at one evening, there was one of our representatives who comes and she says that, well, I have this dream. I want to bring unlimited sick days for parents. To everyone, to everyone that works in the public system. As a, I hear I'm a parent, but I'm at the same time also a business owner. So
Mm.
it's am I happy with unlimited sick days for sick children? Well, I understand the reasoning behind it, but there's always two parents, right? So how do you share that? Like a parent takes 2 days, then another parent takes 2 days. So, is there a certainty that one of the parents actually goes to work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, one of the discussions that we have had, I am also a parent, as I mentioned, we have had amongst my colleagues. Now, I work outside of Denmark, but I actually work the Danish market. So my job is in Danish still, and I speak to Scandinavian colleagues. And it's very interesting because, from a parental perspective, you can say that yes, when your child is sick, it's almost like chaos in the house. Even if you work remotely, you're kind of just constantly keeping an eye on them and they're barging in and disturbing you. But at the same time, wouldn't that shift the burden of work upon your colleagues who don't have children?
I did not think of that.
Yeah, and is that fair to them that they have to take up extra workload just because they didn't decide to reproduce?
Oof, that's a I feel like it's a Pandora box where we live in a time when Mette Frederiksen says, make more children. Denmark is dying. We need people to pay taxes in the future as well. Otherwise, it's not going well. So definitely, we're talking about a time where we need to have more children. So any sort of policies out there are about how do we get Danes to get more children.
Yes, so I see it now. They're like, this is your incentive. You can have more days off if your kid is sick.
Exactly.
And if you don't have a kid, go have a kid.
Exactly. So your colleagues who are pissed off at you that you get too many free days, then what stops you? Well, medically speaking, there could be a lot of things stopping you. so, if you cannot, luckily enough, there is plenty of programs right now. You can have fertility-free support for the first two children, actually. So the government tries their best to support if you want to have children. Of course, if you do not want to, that's also fine. But also, I'm thinking about another perspective. We're talking about businesses where there are colleagues who can take over. But what about businesses where there are no colleagues to take over the workload?
Yeah.
Imagine you have a startup and you only have 3 employees, all of them key. 2 of them have to stay home because their child is sick. How that will just basically delay your companies quite significantly. Like I cannot even imagine if the majority of the people in my company will go home for 2 weeks. Because I remember when my daughter was sick, she was sick, for weeks at a time, especially in the first year. I could not imagine like a time when she was not sick, especially when they get to go into this daycares and kindergartens. They have to go to take every germ possible and every sickness possible and bring it home. So
They do.
So you might as well, to be honest, I would prefer a different solution. Make 3 years of parental leave. Be done with it. 3 years of via con Dios, see you in 3 years. And then I know that after the child has been to daycare, has been to kindergarten, the number of days that they are sick drops significantly. Like I haven't seen my daughter sick for months now. Because they have already been affected by every disease you can imagine.
How old is she?
3 years and 6 months.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, she's been through a lot. I was this 7.5, so yeah, we're getting better with the sick. And she goes to school and she tells me 2 or 3 of her classmates are sick and coughing, and I tell her, you better stay away from those ones and make sure you wash your hands, because we don't play that in this house anymore.
Yeah. So, but in the end, the idea of this is, I understand it. Yes, if you are a parent and you know your child is sick at home, you cannot really work very well or focus on the work. So I understand the reasoning behind it, the moral thinking behind it. It's a bit more hard to implement than, because one thing is the ideal world, another thing is people taking advantage of it or people using it in the wrong way as well.
Yeah, because, yeah, one thought I also had is, how do they know people actually have children?
You joking, right?
No, I'm so serious. Like, it's not like my employer has ever asked to see my child.
Okay.
I don't know. Did your employer ask you to see your child?
Luckily, I never had an employer, but
Oh, okay. Because it just came to my mind when you said that some people might abuse it, because it's true. What if somebody just says, yeah, I have a sick child, and they don't necessarily have that? We're just hoping that doesn't happen.
No, yeah. Uh, it's because you have to understand this is built on Scandinavian work culture philosophy.
Yes.
We trust our employees to be responsible adults, and fair enough, we should. That's the right way. And to be honest, for internationals, such an initiative will be a godsend.
Yes.
Why? Because we don't have a support system in Denmark. We don't have grandpa with us to take care. We don't have a cousin that could just jump in and take care of it. So for internationals, such ideas are amazing. It's just a question of finding a way of how do you balance the unlimited sick days between the two parents, because it shouldn't be fair that one parent gets none and the other parent stays at home for 2 weeks, because one business will be affected a lot and the other business where, let's say, the other parent works will never have known that the child has been sick.
That's true.
So that should be one way. Another way should be, how are the businesses compensated for this? I lose my worker for 2 weeks. Will they go on sick days? Will they go on sick leave? Like, it will be that like a sick leave, so that the government pays for their salary for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's it.
So
who's going
next
to cover
question
that?
is, who pays for it?
Yeah, who pays for it? That brings us into the recent revelations about the practices of the Danish police in handling investigations. So these are actually allegations that in some cases investigative steps may have been skipped to expedite case closures. And this has raised questions about the thoroughness and the integrity of some investigations. How does that make you feel? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest, the political class, or at least we as a society, have put a lot of pressure on the public system for the past decade, asking them to work more, spend less, be more efficient. So maybe, the future should be that we solve crimes by rock, paper, scissors.
What?
Why bother investigating?
That's different.
Why bother investigate at all, right? Like, just rock, paper, scissors. You look guilty enough for us. Why waste resources, taxpayers' money on pointless investigations? It just like get a feeling, like put your finger in the air and be like, you look guilty enough. Let's just say you are the one, or I don't know what to say with that.
So, as a tax-paying Danish person, I do not want that at all. If my taxes are going towards the police, I believe that they should be doing their job. I don't know how much a police officer makes, and I don't know let's say, the hours that they have to work, but I do think that they should do their job properly. Denmark is not a country with a really high crime rate as compared to other countries. So I would assume that in instances where they do have evidence or what they have to go through, that they can actually do the job and go through all the evidences, or they can maybe recruit some of those young people who don't want to go to university and try to recruit them into the police force.
So to bring basically more people into the work, to do some case work. I mean, to be honest, this is I think the police in itself, there is a huge shift in the way the new generations are perceiving work.
That's true.
I'm noticing that as well with the new generations that are coming into my company, and they do not have the same, let's just say, desire to burn too much energy in a stay. They want to preserve some of that for their own whatever interests and needs and whatnot, and that means that the output of the newer generations is lower, which also means that probably that unless they hire way more people, they will not be able to keep up on the same level of processing cases. So I guess I understand in a way, why the higher ups are kind of saying, hey, close those cases, they don't seem important enough, or just reduce a little bit the workload so that it doesn't look so bad, the whole situation. But in the end, I think if they find that the police indeed does this, well, people would not be happy. So
No, they would not. And one thing about Danes that I know is that we are very into details. So when we say we expect something from you, we expect it. And I think, as you were saying, there's a new shift in generation, right? So maintaining public trust for me is probably paramount at this time, especially because this new generation is also a lot more critical about institutions and systems and procedures. So yeah, if you're gonna uphold the integrity of the Danish justice system, you have to do a good job, or you might get canceled.
you make it count.
You know how quick we are to cancel you.
I don't know. I mean, it's also a shift in the world about this whole cancel culture and woke things, right? Right now, there's a anti-woke huge current rising over the world, and you see all this. I'm not saying I'm happy about that. I'm just saying it exists, and I would say that cancel culture will have a harder time in the future compared to before.
Okay, you may not get canceled, you'll just be publicly humiliated on TikTok.
No, okay, that could be, but we also, because you said yourself, people are a lot more nuanced today, which means that no matter what, people will always take a side. So imagine the guy that killed his CEO in US, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was people who were acclaiming that, like, yeah, death to the CEOs, down to the ruling class, down to the damn capitalists. And then in the other side, they were like, oh my God, this is horrible. It's inhuman. How could you take someone else's life? And then there was the third side who was like, oh, these damn socialists, they don't understand to appreciate the value of having a job in first place. So you see, one single situation, three different
That's true.
tribes.
That's true. Tribes.
So-
I love that.
So no matter what you do, there will be people supporting what you have done. No matter how gruesome and horrifying it has been, what you have done.
Yeah, that's actually true. And then there's some that would be both. It's like, oh, he shouldn't have died, but down with capitalism. And I still need to keep my job, though.
Yeah, those are like the silent majority.
Yeah.
It's like, should I really write my opinion on the social media? Yeah, no.
Exactly. That was
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
Let me just scroll
Yeah.
past this. Yeah.
But police right now, to be honest, if we go back to that, they have a problem of trust in Denmark. It's a bit hard because police has been at the top of trust for Danish people, for people in Denmark, for as long as I can remember. And I always saw how every time, even when we had this, I remember there was the Syrian refugee crisis, and there was this policeman giving a flower to a small Syrian child on the street, and that picture itself made such a big wave in the media. I remember back then.
Yeah. I remember that.
It was something else, and it's not just in Denmark. It just showed how police in Denmark can be different. When police abroad was always being, outed for the fact that they're way too violent, police in Denmark shows up with this kind of stories, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we do have a very kind and very, let's just say, not so prone to violence police. That's clear. Nobody questions that. But at the same time, we have a police that recently was involved in corruption cases that were on. They still have rotten apples in between them.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they have, even if you watch all these police shows, right? You have always this policemen who are good and policemen who are sold to the dark side. You can say
Good cop, bad cop.
Exactly. And the same is in Denmark. There are good cops and there's bad cops. So could there be some bad cops out there who are skipping steps for the sake of efficiency, for the sake of giving good reports and looking good and maybe getting a promotion? Yes. Could that be happening in every other country in the world? Yes. So,
That's interesting. It's a very interesting perspective, and it could just be that they deemed a case not to be so important, as you said. So, but still, they're gonna have to justify that for the court of public opinion.
I mean, what's next is that, now that Denmark is pushing hard for more home produced TV, we're going to have CSI Copenhagen next, right? So we're going to be able to see about the dark deeds of this bad policeman from Denmark. And I can only imagine that whatever you have seen on CSI, I don't even know because I never seen CSI. I just heard about it in the pop culture. Have you seen CSI?
We're gonna have to talk about that after this episode.
Jesus, okay, CSI. Anyway, but because every time I can think of a police show, CSI comes to my mind, but I have never seen one, to be honest.
It's really good.
Not even one episode. It's really good. Okay, so imagine whatever you probably see on CSI is inspired from American crime life, right? Imagine that this Copenhagen version, it's the Danish version of it. What will they be fighting with? Yesterday, someone has stolen a bike from an old lady. We must investigate that. This bike has sentimental value. We must retrieve it. Jorgensen, go interview everyone that's living on the street now.
I can tell you that there are some serious drug lords that are in Denmark. Yes, there was a
Really?
big.
There's crime in Denmark. What?
There is a lot of crime in Denmark. There's a documentary on DR about a young woman who was involved with different drug lords, and she outed many prominent people in Denmark as being involved. She had like an undercover camera, and basically she's under police protection for confessing to this huge scheme.
It's a black swan. I know it. I seen the documentary as well. It was quite funny for me because, I mean, come on, drug lords. There was this maniac who had some sort of pathology of loving himself to take pictures with him shooting a gun in the air, showing off how much money he has in Pakistan, not so much in Denmark. And every time he was in Denmark, he will be this goody two shoes that he will not do anything, and he will only do bad stuff when he went abroad. That was the drug lord that we were talking about. And then the other drug lord was, my God, the Swedish guy that was overly is faking of himself as being smart, but literally what he was doing was a Ponzi scheme of multiple companies moving money from one place to another, which obviously failed because it was a bad plan to begin with. I saw through it. I can make such a plan myself, and I'm not calling myself as a drug lord or a future.
Disclaimer, he's not going to do that for anyone listening.
No. But I mean, anyone with a little bit of insight into how companies function in Denmark and how taxation functions in Denmark can create such schemes. So whatever he has done had a limitation or like an ending date. So I'm sorry, but this is so far from, I don't know, when I imagine American crime, I imagine, large guns, and I imagine a person going and shooting 50 other people in the same room and leaving them there, and then more maybe having a whole, room where you have 50 bodies being hidden. Have you ever heard of that in Denmark?
Not that I can think of, no.
The scale is just too small.
That's true. And that's why the police doesn't have that much work to do.
That's not true. The scale of crime is smaller, but it's more often because you know what? People in Denmark like to complain. Have you forgotten that?
No, I have not.
So if you see, that car has foreign numbers, Romanians. Hello, police. Potential break-in at my neighbor's house. Can you please come and check?
Yeah.
Literally, you know how many of these calls they get every day?
I don't actually.
Because luckily I have a friend who works in police, and I got a bit of their side of the story in this. And honestly, they do a lot of weird stuff. Like, did you know that a lot of the resources of the police are being burdened at the border?
No, I didn't.
They literally have to sit at the border and check cars to see, are they or are they not carrying drugs, guns, and other illegal substances. So, or I mean, you lived in Denmark. Can you imagine ever calling the police? Have you ever called the police?
Not in Denmark, no. Not when I was living there.
Okay. Have you known a friend or anyone
Yes.
has called the police?
Yes,
Okay.
I have.
Why? Why?
For a domestic abuse case.
Domestic abuse. Okay, that's
Yes.
that
Yeah.
also happens in Denmark.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that definitely happens, and that we have called the police quite a few
I
times.
guess that happens wherever there's humans.
Yeah. Exactly. But we are coming to an end of this episode.
Oh no! I was enjoying it so much.
I know, I could hear it in your voice. And that concludes our top 3 stories for this week. Please follow us and look forward to next week's episode.
Yeah, we have in the next episode we have Arun, who's coming back with Katie, and they will be your hosts for episode 4. But otherwise, until next time.
Yes, thank you so much.